Hey guys, I got a new story for you today, and this one's inspired by something that actually happened to me years ago. A strange encounter at the grocery store that's stuck with me. It's always made me wonder if there was something else going on, and this story is my creative answer to that question. I hope you enjoy. This Saturday morning started out like any other. I woke up, drank my usual cup of coffee while scrolling through social media, and mentally mapped out my errands for the day. The grocery store was first on the list. Even when I knew exactly what I needed, I always walked up and down every aisle, just in case something catches my eye. In the baking aisle, I stood contemplating which brownie mix to get when I felt the lightest touch on my arm, almost hesitant. When I turned, a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, stared up at me with a shy, excited smile. He wore a protective helmet, the kind meant for someone with seizures or fragile health. He looked painfully thin, with almost translucent skin, yet his smile was impossibly bright, as if seeing me made his entire day. I returned the smile and bent down slightly. "Hi there." His grin widened. "Hi, I remember you. We have the same birthday." Well, that was an odd thing to say. I blinked. I had never seen this child before in my life. But kids often say weird things, so I shrugged it off. "Oh yeah? And when's your birthday?" I asked, trying to keep it light. His smile faltered. Just a flicker of hurt before he said, "September 9th. I straightened instantly. That was my birthday. A chill crawled up my spine. "Wow, that is my birthday. How do you know that? Have we met before?" This time his smile vanished entirely. He looked at the floor. "You don't remember me?" In the white room, the disappointment in his voice was like a punch in the gut. I felt an irrational urge to fix the hurt that I caused with my confusion. But what in the world was he talking about? I lowered myself again to meet his eyes. "I'm so sorry. Where was this white room?" He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a small hand and pointed upward, toward the ceiling, or maybe towards the sky? My stomach twisted. I forced a smile and asked gently, "What's your name?" He lowered his hand. "Trevor." "Trevor? That's a nice name," I nodded. "Well, Trevor, I won't forget you again. My name's Amanda." He gave me a shy, tired smile. "I know," he said. Then he turned, grabbed the hand of a woman I assumed was his mother, and walked away without another glance. I tried to shake the encounter off while finishing my errands, but that night, while I watched TV, his face flashed through my mind like a discarded memory, resurfacing for a split second. I tried to grasp it, to recall the exact details of our meeting, but every time I reached for the memory, it tore apart like thin paper. Yet the feeling remained, a sharp ache of sadness and loss. I blamed it on pity. He was clearly ill, clearly fragile, and kids like that always leave an impression. Exhausted, I went to bed early. I woke standing in a bright white room. No door, no windows, no seams. Just smooth, cold walls, illuminated by a light source I couldn't see. The light was strange, though. No matter where you stood, you didn't cast a shadow. I turned and saw a small boy sitting on the floor, fiddling with the hem of his shirt. My breath caught in my throat. I approached slowly and sat down across from him. "Hi, do you know where we are?" He looked up and his eyes were painfully familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "I don't know where we are," he said. "The tall men brought us here." My stomach plummeted. Were we kidnapped? Drugged? Why couldn't I remember anything? My frantic gaze darted around the room, searching for any kind of exit. And when I looked back at the boy, recognition slammed into me. "Trevor?" He smiled. "Yeah, I'm Trevor, and you're Amanda, and we have the same birthday." The strangeness of his certainty didn't alarm me in the way that it should have. Instead, a calm settled over me, like a thin veil. Wrong somehow. Manufactured. "Trevor, who are the tall men?" His smile dropped again. "I don't know their name. They don't talk. They don't have faces." My mind raced. I tried to picture them, but every attempt slid out of focus. A mark on Trevor's neck caught my attention. A small crescent shape just under his ear. I raised a shaking hand to touch my own neck. The same mark. My birthmark. "How did we get here?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't see any doors." "They don't need doors," Trevor said simply. "They walk through the walls. It's solid for us. We have to be with them to leave." As if summoned by his explanation, a section of the wall rippled, liquefied, and a figure stepped through. The wall sealed solid again behind it. It, or he, wore white scrubs, a surgical cap, and a white face mask. But his eyes, black, completely black, and not wet like human eyes, but shiny like an oil slick. The figure stood motionless, staring at us, and as I stared back, something tugged at my consciousness, hypnotic and pulling me in. I wanted to look away, but my body refused. When I blinked, the figure was gone, and Trevor and I were somewhere else. The room was still white, but there were two chairs facing each other, with a cluster of medical devices in between. Trevor and I instinctively stepped closer together, and his small hand found mine. Suddenly, a forced, warm calm washed over us both. We let go of each other and walked to the chairs like puppets guided by invisible strings. When I faced Trevor, his eyes went wide with terror. He couldn't escape, like he knew what was coming. In the next blink, something cold and metallic clamped around my head. Wires fell down my body, connecting me and Trevor to a large device between us. I wanted to thrash, to scream, to do anything, but I was trapped in that haze of false tranquility. Then clarity broke through, sharp and brutal. A memory of Trevor and I in a white room, as infants, experiments, needles, screams, and a presence towering over us, faceless. I couldn't explain it, but I knew Trevor was my brother, my twin. It shouldn't make sense. There was at least 15 years difference between us, maybe more. But I saw it, like a movie playing out in my mind. Suddenly, a surge of electricity ripped through me. I jolted awake in my own bed, drenched in sweat, gasping like I'd been underwater. I stumbled to the bathroom and gripped the sink. My reflection stared back, pale, shaking, terrified. It was just a nightmare, I whispered to myself. By morning, the fear had dulled into an uneasy throb. I drove to my mom's house, hoping the comfort of family would ground me. She was outside, tending to the garden, her smile warm and familiar. Inside, we made tea and sandwiches and talked about ordinary things. But the image of Trevor's face needled at me. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, I asked quietly, "This might sound weird, Mom, but did I ever have a sibling?" She froze. Her eyes widened before she masked her expression. "Why do you ask?" she asked carefully. I couldn't tell her, not without sounding insane. So I stayed silent and took another sip of my tea. She exhaled shakily. "Yes, you did. A twin brother. He passed away when you were babies. Crib death. I never talked about it. It was too painful, and it was so long ago." My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. A twin brother. Dead. More than a decade ago. Trevor couldn't be him. It was impossible. It was just a dream. I left her house feeling steadier, like the nightmare had finally started to loosen its grip. At home, I ate dinner, watched a show, and tried to settle back into normalcy. But later, while brushing my teeth, I caught sight of my birthmark in the mirror. That small crescent shape under my ear. Trevor had one too. A perfect match. A cold shiver ripped down my spine. I crawled into bed, pulled the blankets up, and as the darkness settled around me, I told myself it was just a nightmare. And like all dreams, I hoped this one would fade too. I hope you enjoyed this creepy tale. It's funny how a brief encounter can grow into a full story. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.